Edmonds Police Department is taking a stand against sexual assault by raising awareness, spending an evening educating people on a topic that a lot of people have a hard time talking about. So joining me now is Edmonds Police Officer Ashley Sanders and Detective Stacy Triker. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Really,
yeah,
oh, absolutely. So I had to ask, what inspired you to hold this event?
Well, it was one of my first cases as a brand new officer was a sexual assault case, and within the young female victim, I found a lot of similarities with myself, a lot of connections, and it resonated deeply with personal experience of my own and that of family members of myself.
Right.
And I think going through the complex and vulnerable, overwhelming aspects of these investigations, and then following up with Stacy and talking a little bit more about what goes into it, I found that there's a lot of unknown for the public, for us as professionals, and for victims, and really in reporting and kind of what it all entails. So kind of our goal is to kind of lift the veil on some of those things.
In a way that's approachable, it seems like. You're going to have a panel, right?
Yes, yeah. And I think a couple other things too, piggybacking I've heard that we want to accomplish is we want to continue this conversation of sexual assault. It's been in the media a lot over the last year, and we need to continue it. And another thing we want to do is we want to give victims of sexual assault and also their family members some answers to the questions about, if I report, what is the process from the time I report all the way up to a possible court prosecution? And then hopefully, who knows, maybe we can get some hidden victims to come out and talk about what has happened to them and or report as well.
That would be amazing, because I think that's the thing, is the unknown. It's very scary what is going to happen, and if you were talking them through it, that is something that hopefully will happen. This event, it's incredible, but I have to say what you ladies do is incredible. Like, just having to investigate these crimes and go through them. I mean, you really have seen it firsthand. If you could give anybody any advice right now out there or anything, what would you say?
Oh gosh,
I think from a detective's point of view, the reporting, the sooner the better. A lot of evidence is lost very quickly, whether it's physical evidence, whether it's cell phone messages after the fact leading up to the event, witnesses. So much gets lost, and all too often we have people that will report weeks, months, or years later, and then what we run into is a he said, she said, and that could be very difficult to investigate.
And I think, you know, it's hard, especially with this topic, to trust a stranger, let alone a law enforcement officer. But understanding, you know, we're human too, and a lot of times police officers will have shared experiences, and we just want to really send home that we're here for them, for the support, and programs and organizations like Dawson Place and Providence. I mean,
which will all be at the event this coming Wednesday. Let me tell them about the event before we run out of time. It is this Wednesday, March 27th at 5:30. Where can they find more information?
We've got social media outlets out.
On Facebook, Edmonds PD. Thank you so much. I will be there. I'm so glad to support you ladies and a wonderful organization. And thanks to Edmonds PD for actually doing this. It's not often that you see an entire police department saying, we're going to do this, we're going to hold this event. So kudos to you ladies. This is incredible work. And hopefully see you there.
All right.